True stories told by real people. Grew up on a property that connected to a game preserve, so my brothers and I practically ran wild in them constantly. Over the years, there were many times I felt there was something bad in the woods. Not all the time, but more at night. And not even every night. We also had an outhouse, so I'd have to go out in them at night more than your average kid. Flash forward to being 14 or 15 and deciding to go get some plants to make a terrarium. Walked back the public dirt lane, not too far from the house, and still touching our property. A place I walked with the dogs all the time, and went maybe 40 feet up the bank into our part of the woods. It's a gorgeous spring day. Sun is shining. Everything is beautiful. And I realize I don't hear any birds. No squirrels. Absolutely nothing. Then I hear a rhythmic tapping noise come from further up in the woods. I figured it was a woodpecker and keep looking for plants. But it keeps making noise only when I walk and falls silent when I do. It keeps getting closer, and I start walking to rustle leaves, waiting for this damn bird to appear. The noise finally gets close enough that I should see this devious woodpecker, who doesn't sound entirely like a woodpecker anymore. There is nothing, yet it keeps coming closer and closer, making what now sounds like someone slapping their thighs in rhythm. Now it's gotten even closer, and I realize whatever it is has been fucking with me this entire time to get closer. And I have that moment that makes my insides feel like they've melted, and I'm about to crap myself because that is dread, because there is something bad almost on me. And I flew through the woods and threw myself off the edge of the 6-foot bank straight out into the road. How I knew I'd be safe in the road, I don't know. It just felt like a boundary it wouldn't go on in my gut. It did follow me along the road about 20 feet into the woods till I came within sight of my house. I didn't tell anyone for years because I felt silly, and then one night I told my mom and little brother. He just looked at me and said, "Why do you think I stopped going back there? It followed me once from the other side of the road." WTF, little bro.
Story 2. The grizzly bear that followed me.
In August, I was hiking in Yellowstone National Park. It was a gorgeous day and very calm. A few miles into the trail I was on, I noticed a bush shaking off the trail. I stood there and watched it for a bit, thinking that there were some birds in there. After a few seconds of watching the bush, thinking some neato wildlife could be in there, a large grizzly bear stepped out from behind the bush and started watching me. As soon as he stepped out from behind the bush, I started talking to him. I had been singing aloud the entire hike, saying things like, "Hey there, bear, I'm okay, not gonna hurt you, just out for a hike." Mostly just talking to him so that he knows I'm a person. I say it was a he because I didn't see any cubs and he didn't charge me right away, protecting any nearby cubs. From that, I surmised that it was a boar. I stood there with my hand on my bear spray, talking to the bear until he wandered away from the trail, off towards the creek in the image above. I was headed east on the trail, to the left in the image above, and after the bear walked off, I just kept on hiking. About a mile later, I started to get super creeped out. Don't know what it was really, but just felt like the hairs on the back of my neck were standing up, and I felt like I was being watched. It was a very creepy feeling. The wind had started to pick up a bit, and it was whistling through the trees. There were noises, creaks and pops mostly, everywhere around me. I started looking around and noticed that there was a grizzly bear face staring at me from under a downed log. I think I was being followed. I think I was being hunted. I don't know, of course, because after I started talking to the bear again, he ended up moving away. A few miles later, without thinking, I sat down for lunch. Peanut butter and honey sandwich and beef jerky. And then I realized that I am an idiot. I am hiking alone, but with bear spray. No one knows where I am, except for my car at the trailhead, and I know for a fact that I am not the top predator in the area. I packed my shit up and headed back to the trailhead.
Story 3. The stranger on Burnt Island Lake.
I was in Algonquin Park, Ontario, Canada, on Burnt Island Lake, which is one of the interior lakes, meaning you have several portages to get to that lake. I was about 5 kilometers from the trailhead and camping by myself on one of the islands on the lake. After I had set up my camp, was reading and looking out over the water when I saw another man in a canoe towing another canoe behind him out on the lake. He was far enough out that I couldn't really make out any details of him other than his beard and green reddish jacket. Thought it was some stupid camo jacket that hunts wear. I felt my skin crawling as I looked at him, which freaked me out because I'm a very outgoing and confident person and normally don't get spooked. As he got closer, I noticed that what I thought was at first a green-red jacket turned out to be a green one with red on it, and the second canoe was filled with full garage bags. He asked me from his canoe which way it was to the portage that would take him to the Joe Lake system. I told him the way and was glad when I saw his backside and watched him disappear at the trailhead. I promptly torn down my camp and paddled like mad to get to Otterslide Lake and stay there. I didn't sleep much that night and thank my lucky stars I had bear mace with me. In the morning, there were several RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, planes flying over Burnt Island Lake and my area. I was still jittery from it all and gave up on my 5-day trip, paddled back to Canoe Lake, which was the lake I parked my van at, and drove home to Toronto, only to hear that the police were looking for a murderer in Algonquin Park.
Story 4. Hunted on the trail home.
Last day of hunting season. Pretty lousy season overall. Huge snowstorm had dumped 3 feet of snow on the area, so all the deer had moved south or had bedded down hard. Nobody saw anything. Me and my dad are clearing out his blind and prepping it for the off-season. He takes the four-wheeler back to the cabin with the last of his stuff, and I started down the trail after him. On a good day, it is about a 10-15 minute trip from blind to cabin. I'm probably about a third of the way done when I just start feeling dread. I want to stop and look around, but a voice in my head says to just keep walking. The feeling gets stronger and stronger until I feel that gut-wrenching moment where fight or flight kicks in. I know the predator species in the area and how there is no way in hell that I am running from any of them. All I have to fight with is a BB rifle I used to shoot in face of squirrels and birds. I end up standing in the middle of a wheel rut holding my gun like a club, trying desperately to see whatever the fuck is stalking me. I'm there for what felt like an hour when I hear the motor of a four-wheeler coming from the cabin. Before anyone got close to me, I heard something in the woods take off running away from the roar of the motor. My uncle ended up being the one on the four-wheeler coming to pick me up instead of my dad. He said he had a bad feeling and decided to come by on his way back. I told him about what happened and he just nodded like he already knew. We went through the pictures on a few trail cameras that night. Goddamned cougar tripped about every one of them with date stamps up to 2 nights before.
Story 5. The zombie creature in Montana woods.
I have a friend who used to go on annual camping, hiking trips with me a few years back. Just the two of us. We would plan the whole thing, and I don't think we would ever really tell anyone exactly where we'd be or when. Just a brief overview of what we were going to do. One time, we got a site. I think it was in Montana somewhere. That was a hike-in. I parked my car. We hiked into the woods and to our site and set up camp. There was only one other site nearby, which was also a hike-in, maybe a quarter of a mile away or so, but it didn't share our path in. The first night we were there, we had stayed up late with the stories and the s'mores and went to bed quite a while after it got dark. Fell asleep without incident. I don't know how long it had been, but at some point I woke up. It was like one of those times when you know something woke you up, but you're not sure what. I whispered to my friend, and turns out he had been woken up too. After probably 30 seconds or so of laying there silent as death, neither of us knew why we were being silent, but we both had this really bad feeling, like we needed to be quiet. We heard some rustling outside the tent. We had already encountered a couple raccoons and deer on our trip, so we thought maybe it was that. But then the rustling got more intense, like it was something much bigger than a raccoon making the noise. We started hearing something kind of lumbering around, and I swear my blood went cold. I was sure it was a bear. I was scared out of my mind, and my friend was quietly freaking out as well. We had an axe and a hatchet with us in the tent next to my sleeping bag, and I remember passing him the hatchet just in case. After a bit, we realized that whatever was lumbering around outside the tent was on 2 legs. It sounded like a person walking like a zombie or something. Whatever it was started circling the tent slowly. We were incredibly freaked at this point, and I looked over my friend's head to where we had one of the tent windows half zipped down to oppose the screen, and when the thing got to where it seemed like it would pass the window, I just laid still and pinched my eyes shut, holding the axe. Whatever it was, the weird zombie person circled our tent a few times, and then just wandered off, but not in the direction of the path. It sounded like it walked right into the dense woods that surrounded the site.
Story 6. Pale girl in the dark forest.
It was about 12 in the morning, and we decided, being the super smart teens we were, and still are, hey, you know that creepy forest we tried to go through that one time, but it was too dark? Let's try that again. So we walked. Neither of us had cars, and once we made it to the entrance, I turned on my phone light. It didn't make a dent in the giant darkness in front of us. It was almost like a curtain covering the inside of the forest, preventing us from seeing. Outside the forest, it was pretty well lit, so the darkness was a huge contrast. We went. It was pretty normal, walking down that paved asphalt path, until I had the absolute genius idea of going off the path. After some arguing with my friend, I finally convinced him to do it. We went off the path, and if it wasn't dark before, it certainly was now. I'm not afraid of the dark, but I got a bit tense, but not enough to stop. We were making jokes and looking at an abandoned beer bottle with some liquid still in it when we heard a sound. It sounded like a mix between a car revving its engine and an animal growling in some mix of fear and anger. I was pretty spooked, but my friend assured me it was just a car. I was coming back to my senses, rationalizing the sound, when I turned around, just for good measure. A fucking girl was there. In the fetal position, she seemed to be crying. She had black hair and very, very, very pale skin, a perfect bleached white. She looked to be crying, but I only had a second to look before fight or flight kicked in, and we ran as fast as we could out of there. I've not returned since, actually.